The moment she stepped through the school gates, all eyes turned toward her. There was no fear on her face, no weakness in her voice. Yet some faces carried those same poisonous smiles often reserved for newcomers. Someone tapped her bag, someone whispered, "She doesn't look like she's from here." But no one knew that inside her was a silent storm, one that would one day sweep them all away. Today, she was just a new girl. But in the next few minutes, she was about to become a lesson they would remember for the rest of their lives. Emma stepped through the gate of her new school with a silent prayer in her heart. I just hope everything goes well today. It was her first day in a city where color, accent, and even names were all judged carefully. She had come here because of her father's job, but the change had already broken something inside her. As she entered the classroom, all eyes turned to her. Some with surprise, others with disdain. The teacher smiled and introduced her, but someone whispered from the back, "She won't last a week here." Emma heard it, but stayed silent. She knew that sometimes silence is the strongest answer. During lunch break, she sat alone in a corner. Her lunchbox was in her hands, but her appetite had disappeared. Then, 3 girls approached her. Their expressions held no kindness, only dislike. One of them said, "You think you belong here?" Another mocked, "You talk funny." There was no reaction on Emma's face, but something inside her began to change. She knew, if she bowed down today, she would never be able to lift her head again, and that realization was about to ignite a fire within her, a fire that would change everything. The next few days were nothing less than a test for Emma. As soon as she sat in class, the girls behind her would start telling stories in which she was the joke. Sometimes they mocked her shoes, sometimes her hair, and sometimes her accent. At first, she endured it, thinking that time would change everything. But instead of healing, time only made the wound deeper. One day, there was a physical education class. The teacher divided everyone into pairs. By fate's twist, Emma was paired with one of the same girls who mocked her every day. The competition was boxing, gloves on hands, a mocking face in front of her. The girl smirked and said, "Don't cry when you lose." In that moment, something like lightning ran through Emma. She remembered how her father used to say every morning, "Fight with honor, not with hate." She had once been the national junior boxing champion, but no one knew that. The first round began. The girl threw the first punch with arrogance, but Emma ducked and dodged it. Her eyes now held no fear, only focus. The second punch came. Emma blocked it and answered with a strong hit. The hall went silent. Those same girls who once mocked her now looked at each other in shock. The teacher stopped the match, but the story wasn't over yet. At lunch, the same group followed Emma. Behind the cafeteria, where no one could see, one girl pushed her, another said, "You think you're tough now?" Emma fell to the ground, looked up at the sky, and made a decision deep inside. The next morning, there was silence in the school assembly. The principal stood on stage, facing the entire school. Suddenly, those same girls were called forward. Their heads were down, their voices trembling. The principal said in front of everyone, "We've seen yesterday's camera footage. There's no place for hate here." All eyes turned toward Emma. She stood there, calm, but not with the peace that comes after victory. It was the kind of calm that comes just before a wound finally begins to heal. And as she walked back to her class, someone whispered from behind, "It's not over yet." The camera freezes on Emma's face, determination in her eyes, a faint smile on her lips, and the audience realizes this story isn't over yet. That morning was different from all the others. There was a strange silence in the air, as if even the school walls had heard last night's whispers. When Emma walked through the corridor, everyone's eyes were on her. Some looked with respect, some with shame, but a few still carried the same poison in their gaze. That afternoon, another boxing demo was scheduled in the gym hall, but this time it was official, under the teacher's supervision. The same girls stood across from her again, but though their faces looked different from yesterday, their intentions hadn't changed. When the match began, one of them threw an illegal punch at Emma's shoulder. The hall erupted in noise. The teacher tried to intervene, but for a moment, time seemed to stop. Emma fell to the ground, but in the very next second, she stood up. Blood ran from her lips. yet her face remained calm. Everyone saw it. The girl who was once the target of mockery had now become the picture of strength. She adjusted her gloves, took a deep breath, and with one powerful punch, ended the match. The hall went silent. Some clapped, others lowered their eyes. The teacher stepped forward, but Emma raised her hand to stop him. Her voice was steady, though her heart was heavy. "I didn't do this to win. I did it to show that we are all equal." For a few moments, time froze again. The same girls who once humiliated her now walked up to her. One of them softly said, "I'm sorry." Another's eyes filled with tears, but Emma only replied, "Don't be sorry. Be better." At that moment, there were cameras at the school gates. The video had already gone viral. The world was watching the moment when hate had been defeated, and one girl had silently changed everything. But as she stepped out of the school, a car stopped in front of her. Behind the glass was the same face, the one that had whispered yesterday, "It's not over yet." The camera zooms in on Emma's face, strong, determined, and with the same fire in her eyes that destroys fear. The next day, there was a crowd outside the school. Camera flashes, reporters' voices, and in the middle of it all, Emma. The same girl who was once known for the color of her skin was now known for her courage. The principal called her in to thank her. "You reminded us that education isn't only found in books. Sometimes one action can change the whole world." Emma smiled and nodded, but her heart was elsewhere. She knew that one video, one moment, could change everything, but not people's minds. When she got home, she placed her father's boxing gloves back in the cabinet. Light was streaming through the window, a sign of a new day. She looked in the mirror. She was no longer the same quiet girl. She had accepted her identity, her pain, and her strength. But on social media, the story was different. Some people were applauding her. Some were saying she was just lucky it got recorded. And some were still spreading hate. Emma read one comment. "This is all drama. She's not what she seems." She quietly turned off her phone. Then she stepped out of her room, went up to the roof, and looked toward the sky. She knew the fight wasn't over, but now she wasn't alone. There were millions like her, fighting somewhere for their identity. The next day, she gave a short speech at the school assembly. Her voice trembled, but her words went straight to the heart. "I didn't come here to win. I came to change. Our color, accent, or background. They aren't walls. They're stories. If we learn to listen, maybe one day this world will become equal for everyone." Applause filled the hall. Some eyes held guilt, others tears. And in that moment, it felt as if even time had bowed its head. The story wasn't over because it wasn't just Emma's story. It was the story of all those who stand up against hate every day, whether the world sees them or not. The question isn't what Emma changed. The question is, when will we?